Potentially. That's how I make some extra money on the side.
This is the last time I ever want to mention this guy's name coming up right now. I never want to say this guy's name again, maybe just in context of something else. But here's James Comey. Like, honestly, if you want to be suspicious about something, why the F is James Comey doing this? This is not the first time he said this. This is like now, like
second time
publicly. I mean, honestly, I have a theory. It is a little bit off the wall. I've mentioned it on the show before. Let's play the James Comey thing first.
I think he has to think about that. I'm not saying he should do it. He has to think about it as he figures out the best way to heal this.
He's responding to a question of whether Trump should be pardoned, if Biden should pardon Trump.
Yeah, here's Comey again pushing the idea that Joe Biden should pardon Donald Trump.
I think he has to think about that. I'm not saying he should do it. He has to think about it as he figures out the best way to heal this nation, both spiritually and physically, as we battle the raging pandemic. And one possibility would be for him to list all the many crimes of Donald Trump and then offer that to him as a pardon. And the acceptance of that pardon would be an admission of guilt. So I don't know how the disgraced former president would feel about it, but he at least should consider it as a possible way of moving the country forward and not letting Donald Trump occupy center stage as the new president tries to steer us in a positive direction.
I mean, now Comey had come out with this a little bit more forcefully, like a week or two ago. And I think he sort of now is backing off it and making it just sort of like contemplate it. But it really feels like what Comey wants is no investigations to go further. You know, there's investigations, like we got investigation maybe ramping up in Georgia about his interference with the election there. But I think there's a lot of investigations that are starting to happen in terms of his finance in Imagine in New York State. And I can't help but think that like Comey, for whatever reason, wants to avoid that. Like the idea that pardoning Donald Trump is going to lead to any type of healing. What? Are you out of your mind at this point?
Are you going to, I mean, the most charitable interpretation of that nonsense is that he just has complete Washington brain. Like it's the, bipartisan mind melting, just complete garbage. It's like not the same, but another Washington brain example I was thinking of was when Susan Collins she said her first thought when the insurrectionists came, or attempted insurrectionists, was that it was Iran attacking finally. What? Like that's
her second thought was like, maybe I should send them pizza.
Yeah, right. And then her second thought was that she was very disappointed in them. But I think Sam's theory about this is pretty interesting.
Here's my theory. Now, I will also say that I think yours is probably more likely. And then I would say there's like variations of that Washington brain that sort of, filter through there. But I still contend that it really has nothing to do with Russia per se, but it has to do with money laundering. And just based upon conversations I had with I know you were friendly with him too, with Wayne Barrett, who is a famous reporter for the Village Voice, who was sort of famously on the Donald Trump beat for years, who kept saying Felix Seder is the whole issue. Felix Seder, I think largely understood to be involved in money laundering, was also largely understood to be an asset of the FBI's, possibly the CIA's. Loretta Lynch wrote an affidavit in support of him for providing information to the FBI,
right,
in support of him not being punished for stabbing a guy with a champagne flute in a bar fight.
This is like,
and
we need the soundboard noise for, I mean, this is a genius theory of Sam's that I didn't know if you're saying publicly. So I'm glad you are.
Well, I mean, I just want to stipulate that this is all just speculation on my part. Although everything I've said to this point is been reported. It was also reported that Seder was a special advisor, had a business card working for Donald Trump. They're involved in a couple of business deals together. This has all been reported. There's a lot of people who suspect that Seder's money laundering would involved Donald Trump's buildings. And then this is where my speculation comes in. I don't know if Donald Trump knew about this or not, but I wonder, I'll do it in the form of questions. Why did no prosecutor in the 30 years that he was doing all sorts of dirty crap in New York, there wasn't a single city or state prosecutor who pursued any of this? Maybe, the answers could range from they just didn't find anything wrong, or that they just weren't interested, or that they got campaign donations, or that at one point they get along in investigating and it stops and they get a blockage that comes from the feds. The other question I have is and you can go back to look at contemporaneous reporting at the time in October of 2016, why was there talk about a mutiny in the New York FBI office? The one that found the Anthony Weiner stuff, the one that was a mutiny against Comey, who they knew was investigating Donald Trump. My speculation is that and I don't know if Trump knew about it or not. I mean, this guy has such chutzpah, we would say, that I believe that he probably didn't even realize he was protected, if he was, from any type of prosecution. The guy just thinks he's above the law.
Right. And it was ingrained.
And we know Rudy Giuliani
conditioned him.
Had all sorts of relationships with the New York FBI.
Of course. From
his time in fighting the Italian mob, which weirdly enough also made openings for the Russian mob. But that's probably
right, exactly.
But
such a mean thing.
But I think that there is, I know from Massachusetts, we had a Whitey Bulger situation where the Boston FBI had Whitey Bulger was an informant, allowed him to do all sorts of horrible shit that they did not want to come out. And they hid that.
As portrayed by Johnny Depp in that movie.
And they hid it for decades. And
he wasn't protected.
and so I don't know. There's some nexus going on there. And remember, Mueller did not investigate the financial transactions.
Yeah.
He made a point to limit the scope and say so publicly. Why?
Well, so the other thing is Sam and Emma, but Wayne Barrett was the first person, let's just be very clear, first person to ever report on Donald Trump. So it's not just that he wrote a book on him, first person to report on him, specifically around a deal with the Commodore Hotel in which Trump wanted this to be his first big deal, and he couldn't get it passed. He wanted a tax abatement, and the economic, I forgot the name of the division. It doesn't exist in the same way anymore, but it was basically overseeing big real estate deals in New York City at the time. And they denied his request. So what did Trump do? Trump said, you know what? My dad is a major donor to both the Democratic mayor and the Democratic governor. And he pushed his way through to get the vote. Dick Ravitch, of course, rejected it, got basically spit onto his face. It's a big story, right? And that abatement scheme literally paved the path for these money laundering real estate schemes that not just Donald Trump is doing, but pretty much all major developers make their money right now in New York City up until COVID by these major purchases where foreign oligarchs park their money.
Yep.
In real estate in New York City.
Safety deposit boxes, essentially.
Exactly. And it drives up the cost of real estate. I mean, this is something I ran on, and I got so much pushback from people that I thought I had somehow, I didn't know it was something I couldn't touch. Because New York lawmakers don't touch it because they take money from developers and they take money or support the police unions, and they don't touch it for a reason. But the problem is that's what's is one of the major reasons why New York City is becoming so unaffordable, and neighborhoods are rezoned. And
got these massive towers that are basically empty.
And, the money is coming from everywhere. But Donald Trump created that model. So if you start digging into Trump, where else is it going to lead?
I think that's a big part of it. All right.
You don't get this kind of analysis on other shows. I'm telling you. No, it's good. I mean, that's like seriously amazing insight from both of you.
We'll see. I have a feeling we'll never hear about any of this, to be honest with you. But that's just my end of the show. Complete speculation, caveat, asterisk, all that on that. So, take
Comey's
it for what
the
it's
worst.
worth.